Yes, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jack Farmer, and I am joined by Raj Giri and the Demon Diva herself, Issa, and we have a jam-packed show for you. We're going to talk all about AEW Revolution. Is this the WrestleMania of AEW? I can never tell. But before we get into all that, Raj, Issa, how are you two doing this Sunday?
You almost said Wednesday.
I almost said Wednesday. Well, you know what that means.
It's Monday. It's Monday at 1 a.m. for me right now. So I'm already on the beginning of the week. I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here with you too.
Yeah, I'm happy too. I'm a little exhausted. Been flying back and forth. I was in Arizona and just flew back yesterday, kind of getting back in the swing of things. So at my age, like when I travel, it takes me a day after to kind of recover. You know what I mean? Like fully get back on my normal sleep schedule and unpack. And I'm an old man.
No, I'm right there with you. Whenever I have a travel day, I feel like I have to book an extra day of just catching up, unpacking, even if it's like a 1-day trip.
Yeah, same here.
But as everyone's settling in and finding their seats and getting ready, we have some news items that I wanted to cover before we dive into the show, because some big things have been happening in the news lately in pro wrestling. You guys may have noticed this. I don't know. Cody Rhodes may ring a bell to you guys, but on the latest edition of Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer noted that plans have once again changed regarding Cody Rhodes. As of this past Friday's edition of SmackDown, he was on the internal books with creative being ready for his return. However, now that is uncertain and his future is up in the air. While the situation with Cody Rhodes and WWE is not considered to be over, it is a case of waiting and seeing how things play out. WWE thought they had the former AEW executive vice president, but right now they are unsure about that. Raj, what's going on here? It was like a done deal. It's not a done deal. What's happening with Cody Rhodes?
So that I did ask around about this today, and I talked to a couple sources really good that would know, and basically it's just not done. So he has all his options. I think you have WWE, obviously AEW, and probably one other, and he hasn't committed. And I think WWE seems like they are starting to think like it might not happen. But from what I've heard with Cody's end is that that's not necessarily the case. He's just not, hasn't decided. So his options are still open.
Issa, it's nice to be the most popular person at the ball. That seems to be Cody. Everyone wants him, but now Cody's holding out. What do you think's going on with Cody? And I'll add in, I guess, on top of that, Joel Wood in the chat asks, Raj, in your expert opinion, what percentage do you give Cody Rhodes returning to WWE and Austin Wrestling? Issa, I'll let you answer that first, and then Raj, you answer it afterwards.
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing with Cody is everything surrounding him and how grand this thing has become of where is Cody going to end up. Whoever gets him needs to debut him right away, in my opinion. Whether it's WWE or a return to AEW, you have to capitalize on the buzz going around this guy right now. I mean, MJF mentioned there was going to be a huge bidding war for him. I think Cody jumped the gun and beat him to it, because I think that's what's going on right now.
Raj, what do you think? What are those percentages?
Oh man, if I were to guess, gosh, it seems like 50-50 on Cody. And Austin, man, that is a bummer. I was really looking forward to that, but it is starting to look like, I mean, if he hasn't committed yet, and according to Meltzer on the Observer, as of last Friday, he hasn't committed. We're a month out, like you kind of need to know that shit. So now it's starting, I would have said 70% a week ago. Now I'm probably more like 30%. And Austin having a confrontation with Kevin Owens, it doesn't, does that, are you going to sell tickets with that? And that's kind of the whole point of having Austin, is to sell tickets, because you got 80,000 I know technically it's 100, but really with the stage and everything, it's about 80,000 tickets you need to move. They're at about 55. So you want that boost. And I think Austin doing a segment is not going to move tickets like Austin doing a match.
And to your point, Raj, I feel like Austin doing a segment is what we all assume will happen
Right.
because of him being around the WrestleMania commercials. He's in Texas. He showed up last WrestleMania in Dallas, Texas. So I personally expected that we were going to see Stone Cold in this WrestleMania in one way or another. Now, once they announced he was going to wrestle, that changed the entire game for me. I think I'll be disappointed because, granted, we fantasy booked it, but it was exciting.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of, Vince and Pat McAfee too. As much as it doesn't sound like a great idea, that has more marquee value than Pat McAfee versus Austin Theory. And, Vince wrestling again is going to get a lot more attention than Austin Theory. Austin Theory versus Pat McAfee, in my opinion, does nothing.
I don't know about that, Raj. Didn't you hear the booze Austin Theory got at MSG last night? He might be the biggest heel right now.
Right, but that was X-Pac heat.
I know.
Is it possible though with Steve Austin wrestling at WrestleMania that he comes out and he says the contract does say WrestleMania, but it doesn't say WrestleMania alone. It says WrestleMania Backlash. That's when I'm coming back.
Oh no.
And then everybody goes boo.
Right. Yeah. Austin getting booed in Texas. That's what you want.
Wow.
Now,
I have to ask one last thing on this Stone Cold thing, and even the Cody Rhodes thing, because the news has been changing and going back and forth so much. Is there a little bit of this that maybe we jumped the gun a little bit on what we heard and sort of projected what we hoped as opposed to what was actually being said out there?
Yeah, I could see that. Especially with Austin, I feel like when you hear the reports that he's, working towards doing a bigger thing than just a segment. Yeah, I mean, that's and who knows? He still might. Again, I think
I hope he does.
I hope he does too. Look, I know people are like, oh, well, you're not giving younger people a spot. And it's like, it's 2 nights. You can make room for Steve Austin.
I don't care who. He could take 5 spots. It's Steve Austin. Take them all. I don't care. I'm famously happy. I'm famously okay when they come back. Take as much time as you want. You're gonna need it. It's a long walk down to the ring, and you're older. Dude,
yeah. I'm Austin just staring for 5 minutes, and then doing a little bit. It's Austin. It's it's like The Rock versus Hogan. It's just a gigantic comeback. So it's the biggest comeback in a lot of ways that we've seen. So it'd be huge. So I'd love to see it just as a fan and just stepping outside my wrestling news site shoes. It would be awesome.
Yeah, I'd love it. I think everyone would love it. He's just got that, even if you weren't around during his time, he's got that charisma that you can't help but get into when he's out there. Joel Wood in the chat says, breaking news on Cody Rhodes. I don't know, you don't know, and the people who do know change what they know every hour.
Well, just nothing signed. And so until something's signed, I mean, it did look like Cody was going to sign. I mean, you just look at the AEW statement. That was a finality statement. Like, he's gone. So
do you think the Ring of Honor could be a factor here? Maybe the possibility of AEW being able to come back and offer him more a creative role, something different might make him change his mind?
So I personally don't see Ring of Honor being a thing. I don't get it. I get getting the tape library. That makes sense.
Right. Agreed.
But running it as its own promotion when you have the AEW name, which is way stronger, it's kind of like when they would do NXT UK, and that never got popular. But WWE is way more popular of a name than NXT, so why not do WWE UK and use your A brand to expand. So I just don't see ROH is for the hardest of the hardest cores. I mean, really, how many people outside of hardcores watched ROH realistically? And I just don't. I don't see it being a brand that that does well. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, no,
What
that's
do you guys
interesting.
think?
I just didn't know. I don't know if AEW is planning on using ROH as a developmental and create its own brand with it. And if that's the case, Cody could be the new Triple H.
Sure, but they have Dark, they have Elevation, they already have their developmental. So again, I think ROH might, using those initials, might get some early curiosity with the hardcores,
Right.
but outside of that, I just don't see it being any different than doing Dark or Elevation. It's not. I don't see them getting a TV deal with ROH. And so Nick is at Revolution tonight. We do have a bunch of ROH questions we wanted to ask Tony Khan. Hopefully, we'll get more tonight. But I just don't get it.
Yeah.
Well, Carmine Vittorio in the chat says, glad to see Case Dutton retain 4 hours too long. I think that is a Adam Page reference, and we'll talk all about Adam Page as in his match tonight. But before we get going into the show, we'll talk all about Revolution. Before we chat about that, though, always want to thank everyone who's with us in the chat. Anthony, Wayne, the Hot Tag Wrestling podcast, RYN, Rojas.
Wayne, who's saying I'm crazy wrong? Why am I wrong, Wayne? Let's hear it.
Wayne, yeah, you're crazy. Well, you're crazy wrong. That's can't argue with the people. Deadpool Party, everyone else. But for everyone who's not watching us live, thank you so much for listening to the podcast and watching the show afterwards. If you could like, comment, share, subscribe, 5-star review. And when you leave a 5-star review, put a little nice note in about all three of us, and it makes us all happy when we read that. You guys ready to talk about the show? We're going to talk about this 4-hour monster of a show that we all just watched. I mean, I'm used to doing 3-hour Raws, 4-hour Revolution though. Tina Miller in the chat says, "Hey guys, Revolution was my first live pay-per-view.
Wow.
Eddie got his first win. I cried."
Tina
So
Miller,
happy
old friend
for
of the
her.
show, worked on the site before. That's awesome. It was,
Very, yeah.
Yep. So a picture of Tina meeting Eddie Kingston made me very happy. I'm happy for you, Tina.
That's so cool. I mean, I thought the first couple hours of the show were just insane. With how hot the crowd was and everything. It was awesome.
Joel Wood says, "Look, we did not fight and claw for years to get rid of those 8-hour WrestleManias just so AEW can put on 5-hour pay-per-views every 3 months."
You didn't even have to pay to say that.
It definitely was. I was talking to my buddy. I was texting him. I was like, maybe they should do 2 nights. Like, no.
No, it was a long show. Tonight was it was a stack show, but it felt long at times. Like you could feel the energy kind of go out, kind of towards basically kind of from the Jade, CM Punk, those matches. Like they did not have the heat that you would have expected. And not Eddie Kingston, John Moxley. That match was not as heated as I thought it would have been compared to, you watch Jericho and Eddie Kingston, how heated that match was. And then you see those matches.
But I think it's because they had like a real feud going on, to where with Mox and Brian, it was like we're going to bleed together in order to be friends. Like it was a very weird feud going into that match, to where Kingston, Punk,
That's weird.
and JF, they all had...
You don't bleed with your friends first? That's how I meet all my friends.
I'm a girl and I have a lot of girlfriends, so we do bleed together from time to time. Sorry.
Fair enough. Dustin EK in the chat says, "Austin don't need to return. He had a perfect send-off with Rock. If he does return, he'd F up his legacy if he doesn't do well, like when HBK returned to Saudi. It's cool for a nostalgia factor, but hell nah. I don't care."
Look, Goldberg came back, and it was pretty cool when he first came back. There have been Goldberg matches that weren't. I know, Issa, you're not the biggest Goldberg fan.
Goldberg.
No, but I feel like with HBK, because he was such a in-ring technician and all that, where I don't see Stone Cold to have the level of... I don't expect a 5-star. I expect a brawl. And I would think that Stone Cold can do that now.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I want to see him catch beers and drink them and stunner people.
Yeah. Absolutely. And and he looks the same. When Sean came back, he wasn't the heartbreak kid. He didn't have the long flowing hair and
he broke a lot of hearts. Broke a heart in a whole different way.
Right, yeah. I mean, it just wasn't the same. You seeing bald Sean is not the same.
Well, let's get into this show. I want to start first, just real quick with the pre-show. We had a couple of matches. I'll just kind of run through them. Layla Hirsch beats Chris Statlander. QT Marshall loses to Hook. Don Callis comes out and says when Kenny's back, he's going to be the champ. And the House of Black takes on the Death Triangle and beats them. I want to start off first with Issa. I'm going to ask you about Hook. Everyone loves Hook. Who doesn't love Hook?
Of course.
My question to you is, how would you describe Hook to someone who's never watched wrestling?
Oh, that's actually a really good question. I would describe him as a cool kid.
Fair enough.
That's it.
Okay, because I like him, but I'm like, I don't know why I like him. I do. I get caught up in everyone else liking him. I couldn't describe why I like him.
It's kind of like a street tough kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But let's talk also real quick, because I think something big that came out was this House of Black and Death Triangle match. I mean, the only color in this match was Eric's beard. But I thought a lot of these guys came out looking like $1 million. It was a pre-show. Raj, do you think that this was a match that kind of did some favors for these guys?
Yeah, no, I thought it was great. I thought they did the spots between Brody King and Redbeard. I thought that was great. Like I said, I had been traveling this week, so I got the alerts about Redbeard being in the match. But did they do an angle for it, or what did they do to set it up?
He wasn't on a match. He just was part of the attack to set up the match that we saw tonight.
He saved
the
them.
Triangle he kind of said oh, you guys got a monster, we got our own monster too, and Eric Redbeard came out and attacked them
on Rampage,
or it was on Rampage.
Okay.
I think it was Rampage. Yeah, I think it was just 2 days ago.
Because Dynamite, I saw the first hour. I saw the Punk stuff, but I didn't see. There was 45 minutes in there I didn't see yet. So, they're bringing in a ton of people. This felt like a tryout for Redbeard in a lot of ways. The fact that he took the fall makes me think that he's not signed yet. He might be by now. If he impressed everyone. Look, I know people criticize AEW for bringing in a ton of people, and they do. And there are a lot of people that they bring in that are kind of forgotten about within a couple of weeks. Tony Nese, there's a ton of people. But I like that it's a very fresh, changing roster, and you're not seeing the same faces every week. So I do like that, and I prefer that over just the same guys every week. So I like it.
I think something that makes it a little different too, and I don't know anyone's contract situation, but with AEW, it seems like because they're able to work other places more often, I don't know if them being on AEW TV as often is as big of a deal as with WWE, where if you're at WWE and you're not on TV, you're just not doing anything. Where someone like Tony Nese, I don't follow him that closely. He might be having matches on shows that aren't AEW and still working regularly. So I think there's a little bit of a difference there.
There is a big exposure difference.
And to Raj's point, there's a big issue in WWE right now that if one of your big stars goes out with an injury, your shows are done. In which in AEW, it feels like you have a line of people that could just step right up. And sometimes people get injured and they're out, and you almost fail to miss them because the show goes on and you have such a list of people ready to go. So I do appreciate that about them bringing in so many people.
Yeah. Plus, I like the surprise when they show up. I don't care about the future. I just want to be entertained right now. That's all I care about. Stellar Justin Lopez in the chat says, I might be getting old, but after 30 years of watching wrestling, tonight more than ever, I understood the importance of popcorn matches. Yes. Yes. Let's talk about Revolution. You guys ready to get into the show? The main show, the meat and potatoes, as we call it. We start off.
We missed the Don Callis promo.
Oh yeah, Don Callis came out and basically says that Kenny Omega, when he comes back, he's coming after the title. Issa, is he going to be the next champ?
I don't know, but he freaking trolled me. I heard Kenny's music. I was so happy. I actually kind of miss him. I fell for it for a whole 2 seconds. I was very upset. So I paid no attention to what he said. I was too busy angry tweeting at the troll job that he did.
He got you.
He did.
Well, it worked. Yeah. Yeah, it felt kind of pointless, I thought.
Yeah.
It felt kind of like a waste of time. I like Don Callis. I like Kenny Omega, but I mean, I think Kenny Omega is very much missed, and the sooner he comes back, the better. He makes a difference. I mean, when you look at the non-WWE guys that have really made a difference in AEW ratings and everything, he's at the top.
He's definitely. I think with this, Don Callis was really just filling time, but Kenny Omega is. I didn't think he was going to be ready to really come back. So I figured it'd probably just be a hi, hello anyway. So it didn't really bother me that much when it was Don Callis. But yeah, the guy's not wearing socks. Looks uncomfortable. Makes me feel weird. I don't like seeing it.
Who do you book Omega with when he comes back? I mean, to me, it seems like Punk seems like the way to go.
If it happened like next week and we were kind of in the spots we're at now, I mean, yeah, that'd be good to see. I'd like to see that. I'd pay for that.
Brian, I need that rematch.
We never had the rematch, so.
No, they only faced each other once, and it was a no contest. So, I mean, I hope that when Omega comes back, it's close to a pay-per-view, because I do think that should be on pay-per-view and not on free TV. I think the rematch should be on a pay-per-view. So we'll see when he comes back, but I need that match again and again and again.
And Jamie sends over a super chat. It doesn't look like there's a message in there, so thank you, Jamie. But if you do have a question or anything, feel free to just put it in without the super chat, and we'll make sure to get to it for you. Let's talk about this match. Let's talk about Revolution. Let's talk about this show. I thought it was a good one. It was a long one, but it was a good one. We start off with Chris Jericho versus Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston isn't paid by the hour, so he starts off with a half and half suplex, but something isn't half and half, and that is the crowd support for the Mad King. But Jericho has been working the P90X circuit, looking cut up, and throws a few suplexes of his own, looking like a much younger version of himself and wrestling a style that he hasn't in a long time. It all comes apart, however, when he shoves Aubrey Edwards, giving Eddie Kingston the chance to cling Jericho's clock and make him tap out clean as a whistle in what has to be one of his biggest wins ever. After the match, Eddie offers a handshake, and Jericho says, nah. Issa, Jericho's a jerk. Why didn't he shake Eddie Kingston's hand?
You actually thought he was gonna? Because I've been saying all week he's not gonna shake his hand. But to your point, Jericho is looking sharp. I noticed that. I think it was like a week or 2 weeks ago that I was like, wow, he's leaning up. He's looking great again. I know there's some criticism going on with him, and I'm like, stop criticizing him. He's like one of the best of all time. Let him do whatever he wants. But I'm happy to see him in this shape. And like you said, he wrestled in a way that we hadn't seen him wrestle in a while. But I am just very happy for Eddie Kingston. Love the crowd support. Love how hot the crowd was for this. And I'm just happy that they finally gave Eddie Kingston a big win. He needed it. He had to win this match, and I'm glad that it went the way that it went. But I never once thought that Jericho was going to just accept the loss and shake his hand.
I assume the best of people, Lisa. I just assume that everyone's going to be friends at the end.
Yeah, not me.
Raj, does NBA Twitter owe Jericho an apology after he got all cut up?
I think they do. Yes, absolutely. Jericho's he's 51 and he's looking the best he's looked in years. He looked fantastic. And I thought this match was just amazing. I thought the crowd was going wild. When this match was going on, I'm like, man, this pay-per-view is going to be, one of the all times, like right off the bat, the crowd was insane and everyone was going nuts, and it was just like, and what's ahead. So I thought this was just awesome. And I thought Jericho did an awesome job. Kingston is just fantastic. He's so good at what he does. He knows how to get that emotion out of the crowd. I mean, how crazy the crowd was going for Kingston, from the get-go. They were just so into him. It was great. I thought this was one of the best openers in a pay-per-view in a long time.
Am I crazy to say that Eddie Kingston feels like he has world title momentum right now? Like, as far as the crowd goes and how people are into him, could he be a world champion and feel like the right guy?
I don't know that he's there yet. Maybe TNT title picture. I don't see why not.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the charisma and everything for it. There is something I feel like that's lacking. That's not quite the guy. You know what I mean? Like a Kenny Omega or a CM Punk, or look, I don't know if Hangman Page is the guy either. When I watch him.
We're gonna have to unpack that in a little bit.
We will have to unpack that.
I find myself every time Eddie Kingston's in something, I'm like, this is the most entertaining thing in the world right now. I feel like no matter who he's against, it feels like they just like will throw a dartboard at a wall, it'll hit a name, and they'll go, okay, Eddie Kingston, go cut an amazing promo on that person, and suddenly I'm invested.
You might be right.
They've been very smart with the feuds that they have booked him in, because you even got the crowd to chant for him when you booked him against CM Punk. But I do think that you're walking a fine line, because I don't know if you book, let's say, Eddie Kingston against Adam Page a few months ago, Eddie Kingston is not going to get cheered the same way over an Adam Page. So I do think that the people that they're putting him with and the promos that are being worked here are really helping Eddie's momentum. When he was going against Miro, there was a couple of moments there that I wanted him to beat Miro for the TNT title. Right. So you never know. It's just a matter of how you book these feuds, but he makes it work with everyone.
Wait, real quick, Issa, you don't think Eddie Kingston would be cheered over Adam Page?
Adam Page, right when he won the title, like I said, a couple of months ago, no. When I don't think that Adam Page, and we'll get into that, like Jack said, I don't think Adam Page has that same momentum going as he did. I mean, I love him, don't get me wrong, but I think maybe his ceiling was getting the title. And I'm not saying he's had a bad run. I think he's had some incredible matches, but I just don't feel as invested as I was when I just wanted him to win the freaking title. So we'll get into that later, though.
Alejandro in the chat says, Virally got back from watching AEW at my local AMC theater. I thought it was a good show. Maybe some things were okay, but overall, great show. I'd love to know how the experience was in an AMC theater. I haven't done that yet, but it always seems like a cool idea to do that. Seems like a fun way to watch it. And then we also have in the chat, Nightmare Knee says, hey, Raj, I miss putting my hard-earned money in your pocket. This pay-per-view delivered with every match I was anticipating. Danielson and Moxley was everything. MJF and Punk was fire. Truly, I enjoyed every match in one way or another. I'm in the same boat as you, Nightmare Knee. These two curmudgeons aren't feeling the same way, but we'll see.
I enjoyed the whole pay-per-view. Right?
I did too. Pay-per-view overall, I enjoyed it. I have things to say. That's all.
Right.
And then Wayne in the chat says, Jericho said he wants the Ring of Honor belt. If Elevation or Dark was worth anything, you'd cover those shows.
Do you think he really wants the ROH belt? He had years where he could have went to ROH. Look, just look at it realistically. How many ROH shows can you count that have had more than 2,000 fans ever? They had the MSG show which was with New Japan.
All In. I mean, technically speaking, All In was an ROH production.
Right. Yeah. But you're going back 20 years. It's the hardest of the hardest cores. Again. I enjoy ROH, but there's AEW has way more marquee value than ROH. And it's just like WWE has way more marquee value than NXT. And if you're opening up something overseas, you name it WWE, it's going to get a lot more attention than naming it NXT. But yeah, it's just a fact. I mean, I don't see how you can argue that ROH is not anywhere near the level of AEW.
I mean, we'll see what they have planned. I don't know if they did another show called Ring of Honor or whatever, and it was supposed to be just like another hour of TV, I'd say, I don't know, you're stretching my attention span. But if it's something totally separate, I don't know. I don't know what the plan is. But
if you do something separate, AEW is not touring right now, outside of TV. They're not doing house shows. So ROH, was not making money off of house shows, you know.
That's
So what's the benefit?
I don't know. I'm just saying. I leave it up to them. I don't know.
No, and if anyone has a real argument for it that can convince me otherwise, I'd love to hear it.
I don't know. I like the idea of another Ring of Honor show just because I love the idea of there being opportunities for people.
Sure.
I don't know financially if that works. Again, I don't think that way. I just think about give me something fun right now and then let everything else happen. Dean Reagan in the chat says Mox, Bryan, Regal, and Garcia to be Evolution 2.0.
Ooh, not mad at that.
No, that'd be I get the comparison. They don't have that same driving fancy cars vibe though. They seem like they drive old cars that will get you from
Teslas.
point A to point B.
First of all, Bryan is not going to drive he's going to drive a Tesla or some kind of, hybrid car because it's Bryan. I can see Mox just driving a really beat up piece of crap car even though he can afford whatever car he wants. Regal, that's the one that I can see. Yeah, the Regal I can see driving a fancy car. He seems like a fancy guy.
Yeah, he's got the nice hair and the suits.
Yeah. Regal doesn't drive. He has someone drive him.
Those could be some good skits. Because Regal trying to get
I could.
Daniel Bryan. Yeah, geez, I still do that. Bryan Danielson riding in limos and
yeah. I just call him American Dragon. It's a lot easier.
Right.
I just call him Bryan, and I can see him looking around the limo, just being disgusted by all the wasteful things going on in the leather seats. It would be a great skit, honestly.
Yeah, I got a couple things real quick. What if ROH eventually lands a real TV deal? I mean, they're not going to get a TV deal over AEW. And look, Rampage is not on the best time slot. That would be my first main concern if you're AEW is getting Rampage in a better time slot. So you see the demand for wrestling. It's on the fringe channels and you're not making money on the fringe channels. So that's not happening. Video library is the money for an ROH buy.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing. Yes, I agree. It depends on how much you spend for it. If you're spending $40 million a year on the video library, that's how much they make off of Dynamite a year. So are you going to spend like basically a year's worth of television profits for a library? Yeah,
but if you want
people are going to get in.
If you want a streaming service deal, I think coming with that library along with your AEW content, you get more money. AEW hasn't been around long enough to be like WWE going to Peacock with all these years worth of content, where AEW now, I feel like they could go to HBO Max or whatever they're trying to get this deal and say, look what we got. And I think they'll be able to get a more lucrative deal.
But do you think HBO Max is like, oh, you got ROH?
No.
So, I mean, I just feel like with WWE.
But I do think that they might be able to get their own network, sort of like WWE network kind of thing, which I don't know that they had enough content on their own to create.
Sure, but that is so expensive also. You know how much WWE went, had to spend for their own network. And, I mean, look, I mean, if they, if they're looking for a streaming TV deal, all this, the main stuff with streaming right now is the live sports. So it'd be the live pay-per-views. WWE, if they did not include the live pay-per-views, I don't think they're getting anywhere close to what they got with Peacock. I mean, it's the WrestleManias, it's the SummerSlams, it's those events that are there. That's what they're pushing. They're not like, oh, you got to come on the network, on Peacock so you can watch WrestleMania 4 again.
And they have to include the pay-per-views, because I still get upset at the UFC deal with ESPN Plus, where you have to pay for ESPN, but then you're still paying for the pay-per-view, and it upsets me. And then I just end up going to a restaurant instead of giving them my money. So they have to make sure they include the freaking pay-per-views.
But again, I will say it's ESPN, again, it's like they do a ton of live events. They're not as big as the pay-per-views, but they do a ton of live shows for ESPN Plus.
It is a headache refiguring out Bleacher Report and Fight TV whenever a pay-per-view rolls around and being like, okay, wait, which one am I watching this on? How do I do this? What's my password again? Oh, I got to pay all this money. which the amount always just seems obscene now that I'm so used to the Peacock network for all my pay-per-views.
It's very funny because Pat brought it up in his interview with Vince and how people were so crazy over the WWE network and how against it they were, and now we got so spoiled with the WWE network that we just don't want to have it any other way.
Oh yeah. It like now if they switch back, I'm not paying. Well, I mean, I guess I would have to, but
Right.
I wouldn't want to pay $80 for WrestleMania.
Close the site down. It's over.
Yeah. He refused to cover them.
Nightmare Knee says in the chat, William Regal coming out and slapping Mox and Brian made my night. That was definitely a fun moment, and that we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. And yeah, we'll talk about that. But first, we'll talk about the tag team title match. Jurassic Express versus the Young Bucks versus Red Dragon. We get a taste of Red Dragon versus the Young Bucks, but it was the Jurassic Express that starred in this big budget box office super kick party. As expected, offense is everywhere. Defense is left in the locker room. A breakup pin by kicking your opponent. Nope. Try a 450 splash instead. And when KOR hits JB with the title and everyone thought it was over, it still wasn't enough. Jungle Boy hit a Frankensteiner into a German suplex to set up the Jurassic Express finisher, and they retain over two of the best tag teams in the world. Issa, was this a surprise for you?
It was. It really was. When I was looking at the match going into Revolution, I thought the odds were stacked against Jurassic Express. This match was a lot of fun. I have no idea who the legal man was 99% of the time in this match. I had no idea what was going on, who to look, and it still didn't matter. I had such a good time watching this match. It was clustery, it was messy, and I didn't care. I thought all three teams shine. Very shocked at the result. I did not think Jurassic Express was going to walk away champions tonight, so I'm happy for them.
I would have bet the farm that one of the other two teams would have won, but I'm with you. I agreed. I know that people who like referees doing their job were probably like, "Oh, who's the legal man?" But I was like, I don't care. People are jumping all over the place.
I'm sorry. I was angry at the referees in AEW tonight. They need to get a whole new team of referees. They all sucked tonight.
No, I like that they were letting them jump it. Raj, did you?
They always do that, though. They always let them do whatever they want.
Let them.
There are no rules.
I thought this was fun. I don't care that rules may not have been followed.
Yeah, I thought, going into this match, I figured that Jurassic Express was going to win. And a good friend of the show, Ethan Kramer, he was like, the Hardys should win. I mean, the Bucks should win and then wrestle the Hardys. And that's a huge match. And I feel like Jurassic Express with the titles, that's not a main event act. The Bucks with the titles against the Hardys, that's a main event thing. I mean, that could be the main event of a pay-per-view if they wanted to. I know they haven't done a tag team main event for a pay-per-view yet, but that easily could be. And for that reason alone, if Jeff Hardy's coming in on Wednesday, he's a free agent. His non-compete ends, I think, 3 days on the 9th. So he can be on Dynamite. I feel like the Bucks and the Hardys, if you're going to do a tag team thing, unless you're bringing in Jeff Hardy as a singles, that's the way to go.
No, you gotta reunite the Hardys here.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and so
it seems like they know that Red Dragon and Young Bucks have some stuff that they can do without the titles, is what I'm guessing. And so I think they feel like that story can tell itself without the titles. So if you give Jurassic Express the titles, then they can go off and do whatever it is they're going to do next. I don't know. I think with Jurassic Express, because I'm a huge fan of like the Bucks and Red Dragon, but every time I hear people talk about AEW who are from media outlets outside of AEW, it's always like, have you seen Jurassic Express? Have you seen Luchasaurus? Like that seems to be the one that people always talk about. So I think, I don't know, maybe they do make sense as the champions.
I like the Young Bucks. I thought the Young Bucks were gonna win here tonight.
I just think that, if again, I just don't see the Lucha Brothers moving numbers. And in my opinion, Jurassic Express. But in my opinion, if you have the titles on people, it should be people that move the numbers. And if it's not working, if it's not elevating the stories or making things seem like a bigger deal, then then I think you should move on to something else. And right now, I think the Bucks, the Lucha Brothers, I think are kind of in that mix where they could be a top level tag team that that moves numbers. And with the Hardys coming in, that's an exciting time. And I think you just want the titles on the right people with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think Hardy Boys are going to be great no matter what happens, but we'll see.
Sure.
Dean in the chat says no champions in AEW feel over with fans right now. I don't know. There's a couple. I think. I think Jade Cargill right off the top, I think, is still really over. I think Britt Baker still is. I think. I would say I think Sammy Guevara is as well. Those would be my three that
I don't know. I thought he felt like an afterthought on this show.
I also thought Jurassic. Again, I think the crowd loved Jurassic Express. They were all,
yeah, but they loved the entrance for sure.
Right.
That's all.
I like Jade Cargill. I'm with you on the Jade Cargill. I haven't. Listen, I love the match in which the Young Bucks dropped the tag titles, but ever since they just haven't felt as elevated as they did when the Young Bucks had the tag titles. I like Britt Baker. I just don't like the way they booked her tonight at all. I don't know. I think I go 50-50 on this. I haven't been invested in the TNT title since Miro lost it. Don't at me. That's just true.
So, Issa, let me ask you this. You said you like the Hardys together, but what if you bring in Jeff Hardy as a singles to feud with Hangman Page? That's just gigantic right off the bat. All right? No? It helps Hangman a little?
Maybe. I would rather see him as a tag team just because I just haven't enjoyed what they've been doing with Matt Hardy, but I think that will be an epic feud for Hangman and something that will help his title reign feel a little more legit. Yes.
I don't think he should, because I think people love Jeff Hardy and that'll just make it harder for people to like Adam Page if he's facing Jeff Hardy. I think if it's me, I have Adam Page face someone everyone hates so that they can get behind him.
But with Jeff Hardy, is he going to mean more business-wise in a tag team than in a singles?
I think Jeff Hardy prints money regardless of what he does. Personally. Purple Bond saying 29 says, shout out to Raj and Issa, Puerto Rican and proud. Is Jeff decided to sign with AEW? Well, Purple Bond, that's how do I not take that personal? You shout out the other two. What am I, chop liver?
no Jack in that one.
But to the question, so is Jeff a sure thing at AEW, or is that still? I guess he can't until Monday, right? Or what's the day he's available?
The 9th, right? So what is it? Today's the 6th, so that would be
it would be Wednesday.
He's a free agent. So he said he's going to AEW.
Yeah. I mean, based on the behaviors that we have seen from Matt, I feel like they've been planting these seeds for a while and they're just waiting for these 90 days to be over. Even on Being the Elite, you see them like doing the fake drug test to Matt Hardy, just playing on this Jeff Hardy story so much. If he doesn't show up, I'll be shocked.
Secular Belt, by the way, in the chat, who I think was the one that mentioned being at someone mentioned being at AMC, but Secular Belt said in the chat says, the crowd lit up for Jurassic Express, Jade Cargill, and Adam Cole, baby. So
we'll get into that. Jade Cargill, when she came out, it's just like, dang, she looks like just a superstar.
Yeah. But before we get to her, we have the face of the Revolution ladder match: Christian Cage, Powerhouse Hobbs, Ricky Starks, Wardlow, Keith Lee, and Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy, for being stress-free, tries harder than most early on to grab the brass ring, climbing the ladder, and the big fellas in the match all at the same time. We get some cool stare downs and teases of big men battling, with Starks saving Hobbs at one point, and Wardlow and Hobbs almost accidentally helping Orange Cassidy grab the brass ring, and Starks spearing through a ladder. Eventually, everyone climbs the ladder, and everyone falls off the ladder, and Wardlow goes to war as he rips the ladder in half and then throws Hobbs and Lee off the stage. Danhausen curses Starks, and if that didn't happen, he may have won the match, but he did. So Wardlow powerbombs Starks and finally grabs the brass ring. This one, to me, was exactly what you want from a ladder match, except this one felt like it had a different flavor to it because it was all big dudes instead of a bunch of small dudes. Raj, did you like the dynamic of this setup for this brass ring face the Revolution match?
So I liked it. I thought the match, this was the first match I felt disappointed with. In the sense that I thought it was fun and everything, but it just, I don't know. It got hokey at times. Orange Cassidy looked like he got killed when he got thrown outside the ring. And apparently he looked hurt and I asked Nick to ask Tony tonight about how he's doing, but I don't know. I thought Keith Lee not winning his first real big match in AEW is kind of a mistake. You're hyping up him as this big surprise and just kind of stunts his momentum, in my opinion. But I get why you go with Wardlow too. So maybe Keith Lee shouldn't have even been in this match if he's not going to win it. So I just felt like it was fun, but I kind of expected more.
I thought it was great. I thought the right person won. I thought it was amazing. Issa, which one of us is crazy, Raj or me?
You. Were you not distracted by the giant golden toilet seat? Because that's the first thing I saw, and I could not take my eyes off of it. Listen, the match was what it was, and it was fun, and it had a lot of crazy spots. Keith Lee fell in what seemed like slow motion. I couldn't stop laughing at that. I don't know why his fall looked like it was in slow motion. I was happy for Wardlow. I wanted Wardlow to win, but at the same time, like Raj said, what are you doing with Keith Lee here then? Because he should have not even been in the match to begin with. But super excited for Wardlow, and I think Wardlow should go on and beat Sammy Guevara for the TNT title when he gets his title shot. Wardlow is so over right now. You have to do everything right with him right now because he's got all the momentum in the world. I do think you got the right winner, but looking at the matches, comparing it to the last two matches that I just watched, was this my favorite so far? No, it wasn't. I think the tag team match will still, rank a little bit higher based on where we're at in the show at this point.
The only thing I felt was I thought the TNT title for Wardlow is a step down. Like he's kind of in the world title echelon, I feel like now with this feud with MJF. I feel like that's beyond the TNT title, and so I almost felt like he didn't need this win. His feud with MJF, that's a main event feud regardless.
I disagree. I think
you think it needs a TNT title involved?
I think just about Keith Lee, I think it's so obvious they're going Keith Lee versus Hobbs that it's okay, and I think the way they got eliminated doesn't make them look weak because they got thrown over the side of a stage. So it's not like they got punked. I mean, they got thrown off a stage to get slowed down. And I think Wardlow, he's been a lackey for 3 years. So I don't think jumping up to the world title is necessary. I think the fact that he's just getting wins and getting a title opportunity, plus we know MJF's going to be none too happy about it. So that'll be the story. I don't know. I don't think you need the world title on him. I think that you can have him have this opportunity. And I think that him winning the TV title or the TNT title is going to be just driving MJF up a wall. I think it'll be great.
The issue here is that MJF, while getting himself over as the best heel in wrestling, also got Wardlow over as the biggest babyface in AEW, So it's such a weird combination because when you asked me before tonight, I wanted MJF to be the person to dethrone Adam Page. And if that's the direction that you want to go, then you probably want to keep Wardlow far away from that title. So there's so many people included, so many numbers and pieces to move in these puzzles that we see where it goes. But to Raj points, I remember seeing when I saw the ladder match and it was for the TNT title, before any names were involved, I was like, but why? The TNT title wasn't even defended on the pay-per-view. So it's like, why would you want a shot at that? So it's not who won, it's who the winner should have gotten a world title shot just out of default.
I was to say, I will admit that it is a little silly. You have to win this match for a title that's kind of an open challenge title. Like
Yeah.
I will admit, like, you could just not be in the match and say I challenge you, and then get a match instead.
Yeah,
I will
Keith
admit
Lee's
that,
gonna
but-
come out on Rampage and Dynamite and be like, "Okay, I challenge you," and Sammy Guevara's gonna accept, like Brock Lesnar got in the Elimination Chamber after winning the Rumble. Like, it's gonna be something like that.
If I'm Sammy Guevara, I am not defending the title against Keith Lee.
Yeah, but there are some titles that bring feuds down. In the sense that, like, look, if Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar was for the 24/7 title, that's not a, you know what I mean. And granted, that's a huge exaggeration, but what I mean is, like, if the title is not living up to the personalities, then it brings it down. And it's like when Triple H and Batista. I know the Wardlow MJF thing is compared to Triple H and Batista. If Triple H and Batista was for the Intercontinental title, it wouldn't have made Batista the star as it was with the world title. So anyway.
Well, Ryan O'Toole says in the chat, solid show, Paige rocks. Thoughts on Sunday pay-per-views? I hate them. My friends won't come over because they work Mondays. I'm becoming a bit of a believer in the Saturday. I mean, I guess I liked them when they first started happening, but I'm definitely more of a believer in the Saturday pay-per-view right now. How do you guys feel?
I go back and forth. If it's a short pay-per-view, I don't mind it on a Sunday because I like doing other things on Saturdays, but long pay-per-views, definitely keep them for Saturdays.
Yeah. I mean, I personally like the Sunday ones better just because we usually have plans on Saturdays. And, I have 2 nights a week with my daughters, so I'd like to do some, but it's just a,
if you're
like,
traveling,
just trying to balance family life, but whatever, sure. Whatever.
If you're traveling to the event, I think
Right.
Saturdays are just perfect.
Oh, for sure.
Saturday
Absolutely.
pay-per-views are perfect if you're actually attending live, especially if you had to do some traveling. But yeah, I go back and forward. This long of a pay-per-view on a Sunday is a bit of a buzzkill.
You know what's the best, which I've really found great, was the when they did
Saudi Arabia.
Elimination Chamber. We were done at 4 p.m. on a Saturday.
You have
Let's go.
The night is your oyster, and
honestly, it does kind of feel like a football game. Like, I'm just gonna watch I'm gonna watch like the football game, and then after it's done, I'm gonna go do some other stuff. Yeah, it actually is kind of nice in the middle of the day.
Yeah, we're old. I guess we're old.
I know. We're all curmudgeons.
Yes.
Alejandro says, I saw the ring is that Sonic uses. Yeah.
I've heard of
a hemorrhoid. It was a hemorrhoid pillow. That's what that was.
I bet you could at least make it like thinner, like more like a hula hoop if you're going to go that way.
I've had a tailbone injury and I've had to wear one of those. So.
But was it golden, Raj?
It wasn't gold.
It's Raj. Of course it was golden.
I got the blue one.
I'm disappointed if you didn't get a golden one.
Well, real quick thing happened. The Realist Swerve has signed with AEW. I feel like this was rumored for a while and like pretty dead set locked in as happening for a while, but this made it official. I am a huge fan of Swerve, so I'm going to ask you guys what you think, but I will only accept positive answers. Raj, you go first.
Love it. I think he's got a ton of potential. I think he's great. I think it's a great signing. Again, we saw Jay Lethal at the last pay-per-view, right? It's how they follow up. I mean, has Jay Lethal wrestled on Dynamite since that first match with Sammy Guevara? I don't think he has.
Oh yeah, like once.
Yeah, he had a weird thing where he I think kind of filled in for Leo Rush after Leo Rush left with
Ricky Starks. He had a feud with Ricky
Starks. But that was
on
Rampage, right? Not on Dynamite.
It was like a few weeks ago where he was like because Leo Rush was like working with what was Dante Martin, and then Leo Rush left, and then like Jay Lethal kind of semi quasi filled in, and then he disappeared.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure the Starks on Dynamite because I didn't cover it, and we covered Rampage, so I'm pretty sure it was Dynamite, the one with Ricky Starks.
Okay, I thought for some reason I was thinking that was Rampage because he did the Sammy Guevara one on Dynamite with the TNT title, and I just think I just hope it's not one of these names that you bring in that has a ton of potential that's just kind of pushed aside very quickly. I'd like to see more of a focus given on some of these new talents coming in. That it's like if you have a big name in WWE, then you're getting more of a shot, but these other guys aren't quite yet. Like he was in NXT, he wasn't quite the big name in WWE. So I mean, we'll see where they go with it, but I think he's a great signing. I think he's tons of talent. He's got charisma. He's just got everything.
I always believe that with AEW, one of the things they do really well is they do like the long-term storytelling. They drag things out and they kind of build anticipation. Things like the Wardlow MJF thing feels like it's been building up for 3 years. But the problem with that is when someone comes in, it's hard to find a spot for them because you're like, well, we already got all this stuff going. That's going to be another 2 years. So
right.
There's the pros and cons to it, I think. But Joel Wood in the chat says AEW is flawless at making debuts feel special. They are equally as inept at following up on those debuts. If Swerve is on Dark in a month, this is pointless.
Yeah. That I love that comment because that is my issue. I know you said positive responses only. I thought he came out with mad swag. I was like, he looks like a star. The crowd was behind him, but I am having such a hard time getting excited for these debuts until I see the follow-up because you get hyped and then there's such a lack of follow-up that I'm going to reserve my comments and see how he is booked and treated. I do know he has a lot of things coming up in other promotions. I do know that, so I'm excited for him.
I think with Swerve, one of the reasons I'm bullish on him, and I'd buy Swerve stock right now is I think with AEW they want you to come up with your own stuff, and I feel like he's the kind of guy that comes up with his own stuff and has plans and has things going on. And maybe I'm wrong. We'll see in a few months, but
I think if you're able to translate your charisma, on camera, like the Acclaimed, you're going to get more TV time.
Yeah.
Everyone loves the Acclaimed.
Max Caster. I mean, he's awesome.
Right.
He's awesome.
Yeah. So speaking of translating charisma onto the screen, Ty Conti took on Jade Cargill for the TBS championship and dressed like in a Mortal Kombat outfit that's so money she was able to give Mark Sterling a jacket made of the stuff. The TBS champion took on Ty Conti and Anna Jay. There's lots of shenanigans throughout this match, and Ty Conti uses Anna Jay as a shield to stay in it before hitting a pile driver that made Jade Cargill the same height as Ty Conti for a little bit there, but the champ powers through and finds a way to defeat her challenger. We said it already. I think Jade Cargill is just a force of nature. I think the only thing holding her back is that she is such a force of nature. It's hard to put her in the ring and feel like the other person has any chance at all. Issa, tell me about Jade Cargill and Ty Conti.
I love Jade Cargill. She's the it factor. I don't care. She can't. I think she can. I think she's improving. But even if Jade Cargill just stood there and pinned girls without making a move, I will still watch her. That's how good she is. That's how great she looks. This was fun. I think that Ty Conti was a very credible contender for her. If you know Ty's background and like all of her, skills that she has. I mean, she was fighting for a world title in the last pay-per-view. So I liked putting Ty out there. I love the match. I love the kiss. I thought the kiss was great. So overall, I have fun, but the right person won. I'm getting very invested in this Jade Cargill streak. They're doing a great job at selling it. She's doing a great job at every win that Jay gets, you can see the confidence go up and the ego get bigger. And I am living for her. I'm loving everything that Jade Cargill is doing. So you are right. There are champions that are over because Jay can do no wrong in my eyes right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's fantastic. I mean, this wasn't Flair Steamboat. If you think someone who's had 25 matches or whatever she's had is going to be in that realm, that's, it's
right.
just being mean.
Right.
I thought she just looked, you would hear that thing about Vince McMahon. He'd talk about the airport test, like someone who just stands out. And when Jade Cargill walks out, you're just like, who is that? Like, that's just a superstar. She has that like a Marvel comic book superhero look, and she's just I mean, she has that confidence. She walks, walks and talks and just is a superstar. And the day she loses, that's going to be a huge deal. So they're doing a great job with this streak. I thought, this was what it should have been. It was short. It wasn't long. It was, she's a star.
And Ty Conti's great, by the way. I don't mean to put her down by saying, I think she's phenomenal, but it's just that Jade Cargill, like I said, I don't know if there's anyone that I can see across the ring from Jade Cargill without me being like, Jade is just going to mop this person up.
Not right now. Not in AEW. No.
And I think, you look at WWE because they're into people that look like stars as opposed to the wrestling. I mean, and that's not a knock at WWE. I just mean
right.
And I'm sure Jade has got to be at the top of their list. Jade, MJF, Wardlow. I mean, it has to be.
Yeah. And they should be. If I was at WWE, I would be like, when is her contract up? How do we make this happen? Because she'd be main roster ready, I think, right off the bat, just because she has that presence. So I don't know who beats her. I don't know how long she goes undefeated. I hope she breaks Goldberg's streak. Just be undefeated forever. Just keep on going.
Don't beat her to beat her. Don't end the streak just to end the streak. Keep it going.
In fact, I say make her a double champ. Have her take Britt Baker's championship. Spoiler alert. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
We'd love to see it.
We get a dog collar match with the old school entrance for the new challenger to CM Punk. The two are chained together and the bell rings and the fight begins as Punk says, I'm not letting Adam Page do all the bleeding. It costs him, though, as the blood gets in his eyes and MJF chokes Punk out and puts him in the salt of the earth. But Punk fights on as he always does. The tapestry of the ring is painted with the life force of the competitors as Punk hits a tombstone on the ring apron. But MJF says this isn't violent enough, so let's add some thumbtacks. After some back and forth, eventually CM Punk is superplexed onto the pile of push pins. When that doesn't do the job, Max calls to Wardlow like a child calling for his mom. And when Wardlow forgets what pocket he put the ring in, MJF gets a GTS and falls dead center on the heap of pain, getting hoisted up by the collar, and with a final act of defiance, spits in Punk's face, and MJF gets dynamite decked and pinned by his one-time hero, CM Punk.
Jack, the fact that you completely skipped over CM Punk's entrance hurts my heart.
I mean,
come on. You were over here talking earlier. You were trying to prove Raj wrong about ROH being a thing, and you ignored that, Jack. Come on.
Well,
man.
Walk us through it. He said, walk us through.
I don't know, because I didn't watch ROH. I didn't know what was happening, but I thought it was
cool. I gotta admit, when I watched ROH back in the day, I would just watch the matches. I didn't know all the entrances, so like I knew Bryan Danielson had the final countdown. But CM Punk, when the music started, I was like, this sounds like a Terminator ripoff. It was like, dun, 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 dun. But it took me when people brought it up. I was like, oh yeah, that's his ROH entrance.
I think it was because I hadn't heard the song. I don't know if you experienced that as well, Raj. I hadn't heard the song in so long. Once I saw the attire and he did all the gestures, I was like, oh, so we're getting ROH CM Punk. It just took me a second, but I still found it the coolest. I was like, maybe he's going Super Saiyan mode, and that's why he changed the entrance. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, it's something for the hardcores. I mean, I had tweeted, is this a Terminator remix? What's going on here? And man, people got pissed. They're like, you freaking clown, you don't know his ROH entrance. And it's like, no.
The worst thing you can do is let wrestling fans know you haven't watched every single minute of pro wrestling ever.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, or you don't know the themes from 20 years ago.
Worst thing you can do. Or don't ever let them know.
If you tell them you're a newer fan and your favorites are not their favorites are not your favorite, it's over. You're done for.
Yeah. What? Bruno Sammartino isn't your favorite wrestler of all time?
You don't remember who was that tag team? The Dicks. The Dicks, their original theme. You don't remember their Dicks theme?
Oh my god. I love this feud. I think like when you look at AEW and you think, wow, we have 4 months to build up feuds before the next pay-per-view. This one did that. The rest didn't feel like they did that. A lot of these feuds felt like they were built between the last week or two, where it's like, what the hell do you wait 4 months for then? Not here. I find this to be one of the best non-title feuds we have seen in a long time. All of wrestling. I don't know what I was expecting. Maybe it's because I'm a very big MJF fan. I'm very vocal about it. Maybe I wanted to see MJF win. The blood, it was everything that I wanted, but I still felt like I wanted more at the end. And maybe that makes me a very sick individual because these guys almost bled to death, went through thumbtacks, and I'm still like, I think I wanted more. I don't know what was missing. Something just didn't click, but it didn't make me not enjoy the match. It was just very, very hard to watch.
This is why I like Wardlow going after the TNT title, because you have MJF just lost to his hero. Now the guy that used to answer to his beck and call has a title shot. It may not be the big one, but one of their stocks is going up, one of their stocks is going down. And regardless of what that is, even if it's the 24/7 title, it's going to eat at MJF. And you can tell that it's going to get to him and fester with him. And that's what's going to get him to come back and really hate Wardlow. It doesn't even matter what the title is, I don't think. It's just that you're doing well and I'm not. That's not fair. And I think that's where it's going. That's why I think it's okay that it's not the world title. But
you keep trying to bring that up.
Yes. So we're gonna go back to it. So after Brian Danielson, John
not the TNT title. No. And you know what? I'm sure there's people that love this match. This was the part of the show that I thought it slowed down. Like I was starting to like look at my clock. I'm like, I thought
it was a very long match. I don't know what the time was. It was very long.
And I just felt like it didn't, but the crowd was kind of quiet for a lot of it. Just felt like the heat was kind of not there. I didn't think this was great. I thought it was good, but this was one of the matches I was most looking forward to. And I thought it was, And I also thought, look, I'm not a big fan of bloodbaths in general. If you're a fan of bloodbaths, great for you. That's your thing. My style of wrestling, what got me into wrestling was not bloody stuff, but every now and then I think it works.
Entrance theme. That's what got you into it.
What's that?
The Dick's entrance theme. That's
right. The Dick's is what got me into wrestling. But look, I think one of the best examples of blood in wrestling was Stone Cold against Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13. It added so much to that drama where where Austin wouldn't quit. So my personal thing, I'm not a big fan of blood, but if you are, that's good. But he's bleeding right off the bat, and he's a bloody mess. And it was just like, you didn't let it build to it. It was like he was bleeding right off the bat, and I just. But they
did a good job at selling the fact that he had a fresh wound in his forehead because we just saw him bleed, which is the whole point. I am a person. I like violence. I wake up in the morning. I choose violence, but we literally just saw him all blooded up on Wednesday. He cut the promo full of blood on Friday, and then 2 minutes into the match, he's full of blood again. So maybe it was a little bit of too much blood and not in an unnecessary way, because that's what you expect from this type of match. But it's just like, okay, so we just saw CM Punk. I hope he getting a blood transfusion right now because he's lost a lot of blood, technically speaking, throughout the last week.
Right. Mm-hmm. It just didn't feel as effective because of that. Because he had been a bloody mess just a couple nights ago. So
exactly. I personally like the specific attacks. Like CM Punk was going for MJF's hand and MJF going for CM Punk's knee. I thought that was more efficient than the bleeding.
Yeah. I think what happened here, because I'm kind of with both of you on this. I like what they were planning, but because the bleeding happened so early in the match, it felt like they kind of went from a 1 to a 9, and then they hovered at a 9 for the whole thing instead of that slowly amping up. Now, without the blood, if the blood came in later, I do like the storytelling of the attack in the hand and the knee and that kind of stuff. But if you started with just that, and then the blood came, and then the thumbtacks, and it felt like it was progressing, I think the pacing would have felt different as opposed to everyone's a bloody mess. Now we're going to wrestle in bloody mess for a little bit. Because once the bleeding starts, you're like, okay, we're almost there, right? And then you're kind of just like waiting. And I think that's why it felt long. Because it did feel a little bit long. The match should have a long match based on the story, but it was also a little bit like, okay, are we done yet? Are we done yet? Are we done?
It was, I mean, I was just getting bored. But I thought the way they did the Wardlow thing was brilliant. With the ring, I thought that was awesome. And the fans popped. I mean, that they came back alive. They were going crazy for that. I thought that was awesome. And so by the end, it was back, you know.
Yeah, the thumbtacks were a great addition. And there was a couple of I think it was MJF who hit CM Punk with the chain, and you can see the chain marked on his back. I love that visual. There was a lot of things that worked here.
He's bloodthirsty.
I get squeamish every time I see the tacks. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah,
I was getting angry. Nobody was falling on it. I'm like, come on, somebody put somebody through that.
It was on his ass when he took that first shot. It was right on his ass.
Even the ref, when they're counting, I'm like, count carefully. Like, don't slam your hand down. What if you actually slap a tack?
But Jack, he had gloves on.
They're like plastic gloves. They're not gonna do it good. I'd be the most timid counter just to be safe.
1, 2.
1.
You just do it in the air.
Yeah.
Dean in the chat says, marked out big time for the Ring of Honor entrance. Keep it.
Really? You think that's better than Cult of Personality?
Cult of Personality is an all-timer. I don't know.
It's an all-time, yeah.
Joel Wood in the chat says, Wardlow turn was great. Loved the match. Hated MJF losing with Jericho at All Out. How many blow-off matches is MJF going to lose? You know, I was kind of thinking it's good he lost, because if he won, how do you not give him a world title shot next? I don't know where he goes if he wins, but now he can because if he won, why would he feud with Wardlow? He'd be like, I won. I'm going for the title.
Yeah, but this always happens to MJF. You give him a big win and you take it back right away, and it's BS for us MJF fans. There are some of us out here. Come on.
MJF should be champion, in my opinion.
Yes. Thank you, Raj.
He will be. He will be. I think he'll be the one to beat Adam Page, actually.
Yeah.
That's my prediction. It's not a spoiler because I'm wrong with predictions all the time. So we go to the Women's Championship, and Thunder Rosa entered the battle with yet another entry into her awesome entrance attire collection, while Britt Baker, not to be outdone, entered with a new, beautiful-looking championship belt, and the crowd was just as fired up about this match as the competitors seemed to be as they went after each other right away and went through their greatest hits in their rivalry with some reversals along the way. They trade shots and trade submissions and trade pins before an avalanche air raid crashed it. It was not enough. Thunder Rosa hits a tombstone straight from, I'm guessing, the graveyard of Tijuana, no doubt, but it was also not enough. Eventually, Britt Baker curb stomps Thunder Rosa's face first onto the new championship, but Thunder Rosa will not be denied. She reverses a lockjaw attempt and spears Rebel in half to the outside, takes out Jamie Hayter, and gets curb stomped again. And it's one stomp too many as Britt Baker retains and remains your AEW champion. Raj, you tweeted something, and we're just going to jump right into it. She kicked out of a curb stomp onto the title. How do you feel about that?
I hate it. And then she beats her with a curb stomp, not on the title. So it was, I just think stuff like that. You're getting too cute by half. I just feel like, I know people love false finishes and things like that, but at some point they got to make sense. And when you're doing that, I just think it's gone too far. But I do got to say, I did really like the match until that point. I thought Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa, they have real chemistry. I felt like this was late in the show, so the crowd was still not quite woken back up yet. That might have hurt it a little bit, but I thought Britt looked fantastic. I thought Thunder Rosa was awesome. So I thought the match was really good. It just didn't quite have the heat, but I thought it was good outside of that kick out.
I agree with you. I feel like if it would have made a world of difference, by the way, if they just switched curb stomp, had the belt under it.
Yeah.
But Dean in the chat says the ref ruined this and Britt has lost her steam. Issa, I want to ask you, has Britt lost her steam?
Yes, it's a little bit. Yeah, I have a lot to say. I hated the placement of this match. It's your women's world title match, and you place it after the biggest match that everybody was looking forward to. Horrible placement. Number two, you have what? 10,000 YouTube shows. You have Rampage. You have Dynamite. You have a pre-show, and you never tell us that you're debuting a brand new title. There was
Yeah,
people
okay.
that
I
were
thought I missed that. Yeah,
there
what
was
this?
people. Stellar
Yeah.
Justin Lopez, good friend of the show. He tweeted me and said, "I didn't realize there was a new belt until I saw you tweet about it." You make all these announcements, and you take no time to even talk to Britt Baker backstage on the pre-show and the buy-in, and just let her show this beautiful belt, which is beautiful, by the way. I love it.
Yeah.
I hated the other AEW Women's
Yes.
Championship.
Massive.
Hated
upgrade.
hated the way they booked Britt Baker here, because Britt Baker needs to be able to beat Thunder Rosa clean, because Thunder Rosa does have a win, even though it doesn't count, does have a win over Britt Baker. So if you're going to have Britt finally beat her, let her beat her. All of these things going on, the ref pulling the same mistake with the distractions, I just didn't like it. These women, maybe it's because they had the bar for Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker was up here. There was no way they were going to outdo what they already did, unless you did a no DQ match with them and they were able to go at it the same way they did back then. So I didn't like it. I don't think this did anything for Britt Baker. Hated that they didn't announce the title, the new title. Hated the placement of this match. Happy that Britt retained, because I do like Britt Baker. I think she's one of the faces of AEW, but I had so many issues with this. Listen, I could go on all night.
That makes sense. Actually, you're changing my opinion now. Yeah, now that I think about it, yeah, that's true. And yeah, I when they said the new women's title, and I was like, okay, again, I missed Rampage, so I didn't know if maybe it was announced earlier and I missed it. But yeah, so it was just out of the blue, I guess.
It was actually really. I don't like to talk about like production stuff because I feel like sometimes things just happen, but it was kind of bad production in the sense that Britt Baker's walking out and they're like, yeah, and look at that new title, but her name like graphic is over the title as they're saying. It's like I can't even see the title as you're telling me for the first time she has a new title.
Then they sent out a tweet. Take a look at the beautiful new title, and it's just like
the title
really,
is
like you make a big hype out of some silly announcements, and you can't even take 2 minutes in all of your programming for this.
All right.
They yeah, and it was probably one of the biggest upgrades in title design I've seen in a long time. But I want to say Brian Barry in the chat says, are they running out of contenders for Britt? For me, that's kind of the thing. I don't know at this point. Like she's beat. I felt like she's been champion for like a year now. I feel like that story has now been. I love her as a champion, but I've seen it. Like
they're not running out of contenders. They haven't built up any. You have a very diverse, big women's division in there. You're just not putting any time into anyone but Jade. That's what you say when you say let her hold the two belts. Not a bad idea, but then she's just gonna hold them hostage both. You know, like you can play around with this one, but they have to work on their women's division. Maybe this tournament coming up will help with that, but they have to work on the women's division because Thunder Rosa was the only person that I thought was credible to beat Britt Baker, and you completely just messed that up tonight. So I don't even know anymore.
But Jade versus Britt would be huge, I think.
Yeah, that would be massive. Yeah. But it feels like it'd be a bit early to do a title versus title kind of match.
Yeah, no, for sure. Unification.
You got to do it at WrestleMania.
Right. And then undo it a couple weeks later.
Right. So, I mean, I feel like I like both people. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think I would have rather seen Thunder Rosa win and then seen Britt Baker find out what Britt Baker is without the title at this point. But
I needed Thunder Rosa to win or Britt Baker to beat her clean and put that behind her and be able to come out and kind of like brag about finally being able to prove the one thing that she hasn't been able to overcome this last year. But they didn't do either one of those things, and it just didn't do anybody any favors.
Nightmare Knee asks, where's Ruby Soho?
FanFest.
Yeah. I mean, she's kind of in that spot where
she's lost to both. I think she lost to both Baker and Cargill, so now she needs to find a rivalry that's not tied to a title.
Yeah.
Because I'd say Serena Deeb's the only one that's like, she's like doing a lot of stuff that's non-title, but she's also a bad guy. So why would she face either of those two?
Well, I mean, and this is also this isn't a knock. This is actually a credit to how deep AEW's roster is. When you think about how many people were not on that show,
Yeah.
I mean they have a stacked roster. So yeah,
they definitely have a stacked roster. It's just they kind of like every October Abaddon shows up for a Halloween.
I see a lot of people. I see a lot of people in our chat mentioning that Thunder Rosa will win it in San Antonio because they have a San Antonio show coming up. Then it has to be a steel cage match or something where there can't be any distractions. It's the only way that you might be able to save this a little.
It seems a little bit like if they have another one, it'll be like finally. It won't feel like because it'll be like their fourth match, won't it? It feels like they've had a ton of them.
Yeah, but I feel like they have a certain chemistry where I feel like they could be like the Trish and Lita from back in the day, where this is the AEW feud, you know, where not one is necessarily better than the other. They just kind of go back and forth, but I feel like they can do that with them. I don't know.
Yeah,
but I don't like, you know, when you have a top star beating them, but I think Thunder Rosa in San Antonio makes sense.
Brian Barry in the chat says, question this whole Wardlow and MJF storyline is like Batista and Triple H storyline.
Yeah, instead of the thumbs down, they did the ring. And
they did the pinky down.
Right, yeah.
So we move on to Bryan Danielson versus Jon Moxley. This match starts as the crowd calls for violence, and these two fellas are up to give it to them. These guys are just laying it in, and eventually these guys decide it's their turn to bleed. Insert a crimson mask cliche here as they start beating the snot out of each other a bit more. Danielson locks in the labella lock, and Mox literally scratches and crawls to the rope. Mox then kicks his way into a bulldog choke on Danielson. The Aberdeen Dragon fights out of it and chokes Mox, punching Mox in the face at the same time. And in an act of strategic desperation, Mox bridges over and pins Bryan Danielson for the 1-2-3. But they're not done. They keep fighting until William Regal shows up and restores order by dishing out 5-finger slaps to the face and convincing them to tag team. But he did not, however, say War Games. Raj, so this is a match that I think this was a stellar match. But for me, this is where I started to feel the length of the show. How did you feel if you saw this earlier in the show, or if you saw this maybe on a show that wasn't as long? Did you like the match?
I thought they worked their asses off, but I'm with you at this point. This was the match I was most excited about. This was my main event, you know, like the one I was really looking forward to. And I thought it was really, really, really good. But again, I thought the crowd was pretty tired by this point. It didn't have that much heat, but I thought it was really good still. And but again, if the show was an hour shorter, I think it would have had a lot more heat, and it would have been a lot more. The crowd would have been a lot more into it. But because when you have these guys, and the biggest pop is William Regal coming out, you know,
War Games.
It's War Games,
blood and guts.
I don't know. Again, that shouldn't be the biggest pop, but anyway.
Issa, do you think that William Regal is a difference maker?
Oh yeah, 1000%. I got so excited when I saw him. I want to know where he was when Jericho needed to give out a handshake, because he didn't show up for that. Also, at the end, I personally think that Hangman Page shook Adam Cole's hand because he don't want none of that William Regal smoke. He's not having that slap. So
William Regal's in the back, just like
yeah, he like grabbed the limp hand of Adam Cole, like, I'm not dealing with that, buddy. Listen, I love seeing Regal. I think he's gonna make a difference. We'll see how they book him. Is it, the whole Evolution super chat earlier had me very curious about it. I think if maybe you would have put the dog match, the dog color match opening the show, then maybe this match would have had a bigger moment, just because we just saw blood. Like, 2 matches ago, we saw all this violence, and then these guys are trying to kind of simulate some kind of violence in just a good old regular match after all the violence we seen throughout the night. Or maybe these two should have opened the show. I don't know. I feel like putting it so close to the dog collar match hurt it, because I was very excited for this match. It was the second one that I was looking forward to the most. But I love seeing them. They said they were going to bleed together, and they accomplished that. What else can we ask for?
Talk about friendship, bleeding together. Now, Raj, the assumption right off the top is that he might be like a manager of these two, but doesn't it seem a little like you're overdoing it when you have two of the better talkers in AEW on a tag team, adding a manager to them?
Well, I mean, you did have, Flair with Triple H and Randy Orton.
That's true.
Yeah, and granted, Randy Orton wasn't a great promo back then, but still, you had Paul Heyman managing CM Punk at one point, where
that's true.
Punk didn't really need a manager, but look, Regal's not wrestling. He's not a difference maker in the sense of
but
TV
he's
ratings.
Slapping.
What's that?
You better be careful. He will slap you in the face.
No. So what I was going to say is, as a TV ratings kind of guy, he's not a difference maker. But as far as helping people backstage, helping wrestlers, learn the craft and everything, yeah, absolutely, he can be. So I don't see any company wouldn't want to have William Regal. So I thought it was really good. I thought the match itself, again, I thought it was good, but not. I thought this was going to be the match of the year for me, but it didn't quite hit that level. But it was.
There was so many gimmick matches and so many no DQs and so much things that we've seen up to this point in the show that just seeing a regular match with a little blood just doesn't have the same impact of everything that we've seen throughout the night.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I do want to say, because I'm a huge fan of NXT UK, and so I feel like I'm one of the few people that like to wave the banner of NXT UK. This match, if you take the blood out of it, felt a lot like a lot of the matches in NXT UK, where they're very hard hitting and all their moves are like, they're not violent, but they're like, all their punches are really hard, all their hits are really hard, all their slams are really hard, and it feels very competitive like that. That's what NXT UK is like. So if you like this match, you should give NXT UK a shot. Brian Barry in the chat says, Raj, how is Orange Cassidy?
You know what? Where is my phone? I should. And I was asking about that earlier. The scrums are going on right now, also on our YouTube channel, and we were going to ask Tony Khan about that. So we should have something soon. I think he's fine. It seemed like he was knocked silly, but he should be okay. But that was just from. He wasn't stretchered out or anything.
Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully he's okay. We had as we power through, we have a 6-man tag team match: Andrade, Matt Hardy, Isaiah Cassidy versus Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, and Sting. A fun brawl with action and trash cans all over the place. Fun stuff with the ne'er-do-wells trying to use the numbers game, but Sammy hits a Spanish fly off the top of the staging and through a table. Crazy-haired Sting dies off a ledge through a table, and Darby Allin hits a death drop through a chair. The Heroes win. This, again, if it wasn't, if we weren't on like hour 4, I think this is a perfect match to separate before the main event. Issa, did you, again, well, let's put aside the fact that this is a long show at this point. Just on its own, how did you like this being kind of right before the main event?
I love this match a lot more than what I anticipated I would. I have forgotten about this match. I know you said don't mention the long show, but I remember thinking after Mox and Brian, I'm like, oh my God, there's another match before the main event. So I got a little annoyed. But then you get this Darby entrance. They always put so much effort into it, and they look so cinematic. And they just went at it, and it was the perfect length. This match didn't feel too long. I don't know if they cut it, maybe because of times. I don't know if this is what was scheduled to be. Andrade looked like a beast. Sting is a crazy grandpa. Overall, this was fun. I had a great time watching this. Listen, I'm here.
I'll never unsee Sting as crazy grandpa now. I'm just gonna say.
This was a lot of fun, and I don't remember this storyline being this hyped. So they over-delivered.
This match was super fun. Again, if this wasn't on such a long show, I'd be like, this was fantastic. If this was on Dynamite, I'd be like, what a great main event for Dynamite. But Raj, any thoughts on this one?
Oh, I agree. I loved it. And again, I thought correct me if I'm wrong, if you guys disagree, but I thought this match had the crowd more into it than the previous two, with Punk and MJF, and with Moxley and Danielson, which I forgot, when this match came up, I was like, okay, I'm going to get a snack. I'm just, I don't have to pay that close attention. And then once it started, I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. It was fun the whole way through. Sting just looked like he was saying a big, F you to the people who thought he was done years ago. And he just was awesome. I mean, Sting was the star of this match. Matt Hardy, he slipped, I feel like we're getting Jeff coming in, so hopefully that'll be a rebirth, because he's kind of where he was in WWE when people criticize his WWE booking. It's just kind of an under mid-card guy. So we'll see.
I thought everyone came out looking good. I thought to myself after this, first off, I love Sting. I'm going to love Sting forever, and he's another one of those guys. I don't care. He'll be 150, and I'll be like, Sting! But Andrade, I thought, did himself a lot of favors. He looked incredible, and I was thinking, I know that he's doesn't got a lot of stuff going on right now, but they should have him just in the ring more often. I was thinking, I know he's not lined up for it, but he's the kind of guy that should have the TNT title and taking open challenges and just having banger matches every week. Issa, you agree?
Yeah, I do. And I never thought that I would. I'm not the biggest Sting fan, but I have really been enjoying everything that he's doing in AEW, and I thought he looked incredible tonight.
Sting is undefeated, right, in AEW?
Yeah.
He's the next to challenge Adam Page.
No, he's going to challenge Jade. He's going to break Jade's streak versus streak.
No, that would be so great. He comes out, he's like, no, Page. I want to challenge the real world champion in AEW, Jade Cargill. And then
if you have someone beat Sting, who do you have beat Sting?
I feel like that's an MJF kind of person that beats Sting. Someone who just rubs it in our faces forever.
I like it.
Andrew Young in the chat says, did Matt botch the ending? Darby barely hit the coffin drop on Hardy.
I thought Darby botched the ending. Like, he didn't go far enough.
I mean, if we're talking it from Matt's point of view, technically he's supposed to roll out of the way, isn't he? Come on. I mean, it was just defense. Just didn't get out of there fast enough.
Yeah.
The
ending was a little botched.
It was a small enough thing for me where it didn't really bother me. I wasn't.
The match was such a good time that I'm not gonna nitpick on the ending.
Right.
Yeah. We get to the end of the show. The rainbow-clad cowboy came to defend his title against his old friend Adam Cole, baby. They go through their usual repertoire before Cole decides it's time for Page to learn how to boot Cole in the face, powerbomb him on the apron, and moonsault to the outside. So Cole decides to return the favor by super kicking Page a couple times and putting Page in a crossface. These two know each other well and are reversing moves, hitting moves, and going for the win, but it's not enough to get the win. So Red Dragon comes on scene, and Cole hits a Panama Sunrise to the outside, kicks Page square in the yam bag, and hits another Panama Sunrise and a knee to the back of the head for the ultimate near fall, but Page tries to fight back, but Cole seems to have his number, super kicking him like crazy, and in an act of desperation, Page hits the Deadeye through a table as the Dark Order arrives to chase off Red Dragon. After a bevy of super kicks, Page hits the last call, and then the buckshot lariat to retain his title in another war with one of the world's best. Raj, people keep saying they're not buying Adam Page as the champion, but he's beaten Kenny Omega, he's beaten Bryan Danielson, he's beaten Lance Archer, and now he's beaten Adam Cole, baby. What does this guy got to do to earn the title of being a legit world champion?
I was thinking about this the other day. I almost wonder if AEW is kind of like a heel promotion with the champions. It feels like it's best when the heels are the champions, and then you have a babyface chasing, like you had back in WCW back in the day with Ric Flair and guys like that. I just feel like once the babyface wins the title, I don't know. I guess Moxley would be the exception, but outside of that, I don't know.
Mox has always been kind of on the gray area too. Like, sure. I mean, he's not a bad guy, but he's also not the nicest of nice guys either.
Right? Yeah. And maybe that's what Hangman needs, is more of a edge or something. But I like the match. I thought Adam Cole was great, but right off the bat, the fans were more into Adam Cole coming out in the entrances than Hangman Page, and I think I just think there's something lacking with Hangman's title reign, and
I just
and
don't think that Adam Page has had that. Sorry to interrupt you, but I don't think he's had
Sure.
that win that goes, oh my God, this guy is it. He's gone against the guys, right? But this one could have been it, but they built Adam Cole horribly, and then everybody else was involved. It wasn't like a one-on-one. I'm gonna beat you to prove that I'm better than you. With Brian, he couldn't get it done the first time, so maybe if he would have beat Brian right off the bat, that would have been like, oh my God, this guy is for real. I haven't seen that define the victory outside of Omega. I've seen great matches, but I haven't seen that holy shit, this guy is our champion moment from Adam Page yet.
Yeah, and I think also just from a storytelling aspect, you look at his feud with Danielson. Danielson was the one that was the most entertaining in that feud.
Yeah.
He's the one that's doing all the promos. He's beating up Page's friends. With Page and Lance Archer, same thing. Lance Archer is kind of the more interesting in that feud, and he just so far he hasn't been the more interesting one in the feud with Adam Cole. Adam Cole is the more interesting, and so. I don't know if that's the babyface heel dynamic or what, but it kind of reminds me of like Bret Hart in '93. Like it wasn't until Bret Hart turned heel in '97 that he was like the guy. And
I feel like there's not a lot of, because building up to him being the champion, there was so much story to it. And even just before, it was like the Dark Order was cheering him on and they were like, we believe in you and it doesn't matter if you fail or not. And there's this big thing about it. But then once he won the title, we never really see him with the Dark Order. We don't really, he only cuts promos every now and again. And it doesn't feel like we're really getting, like, even the rivalry with Adam Cole, they have a lot of stuff baked in, but it didn't feel that personal. It didn't feel like there was a thing. It just felt like, oh, you're the number one contender. Okay, I'm gonna have a match with you.
And also, I feel like the Dark Order brings him down too. If Brock has 3MB coming with him to the ring, it's gonna not make him look as powerful. No one.
But sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if it's not a main event act, I don't see it helping. And the Dark Order is not a main event act.
But to both of your points, I see what you're saying, Raj. And to Jack's point, it's like, I don't know if you watch BTE, and I hate to bring it up again because I'm very critical of having to follow other shows to know what's going on TV. Mm-hmm. But he walked up to the Dark Order this weekend. He's like, "Are you guys sleeping with Adam Cole?" Which is an internal joke in the show, and it was the best freaking promo that he's cut. And I'm like, why is this guy not doing this on television? Not necessarily those words, but the intensity. And like I fell in love with Adam Page because of BTE, to be honest with you, and following his story through there. That's not the guy that they're giving us on TV. It's like if you go and watch the YouTube programming against what we're seeing on TV, it feels like we're seeing two complete different characters.
Mm-hmm. I think the reason the Dark Order worked with him in the past is because they are sort of the losers, and he was like, it reminded me like they're the Bad News Bears, and he was that, I can't remember the name of the good player that was on the Bad News Bears that there's like the one kid that for some reason he can't play on the good team, so he has to play on I always thought that was Adam Page. But now, and now, of course, then that player wants to get back at the team that he can't be on anymore. But now, like I said, it feels like every match he has is, I'm the number one contender, so we have a match at the pay-per-view. Okay. And then they have the match. It doesn't feel like there's that. Like, you need someone who it makes it personal and makes it like a blood feud, like with MJF and CM Punk, and makes it more interesting than just, oh, you have the title. I guess we're gonna have a match at the pay-per-view, which is kind of what this felt like.
And again, I think who you're aligned with, when Edge was aligned with Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins, it didn't elevate him. When you're in a group, if the group is weak, it does not elevate you. And I just think the Dark Order is just it's hurting Adam Page.
The Stooges helped Vince McMahon.
You had the first Intercontinental Champion in that group, man.
I personally like this match. I thought this was
Yeah.
the best that Adam Cole has looked. I mean, it was my favorite Adam Cole match in AEW right now, just because it just felt like it was meaningful. I loved his attire coming out. I think he was paying homage to Halo. I love that AEW is really just letting this guy fly with their creativity and do what they want. Pop for that every time. But there was a power bomb onto the apron in which
Yes.
I thought that Adam Cole was literally broken in half. That looked insane. Adam Page is great at the wrestling thing. You know, when he's in the ring, I love his matches. I just wish we could see a little more character from him. And I need him to have that definitive, holy crap, win. But with that being said, you said it. His resume is impressive so far. He has beaten a lot of very big names. And at some point you had to stop and say, oh, wow, this guy's a big deal. But you've had champions in the past that have a impressive resume, and their title reigns is nothing to really brag about. So
yeah, I thought this match was just looking at the match itself, I thought it was really good. I thought I love the chant, the fans chanting "Let's go, Adam."
Yeah,
I know, me too.
I loved it. And Adam sucks was another one.
Yeah.
So I thought it was really good, and I thought it was I thought the last two matches were very fun, and it just the pay-per-view as a whole, I don't see how you could dislike it. It was, you have your ups and downs, but for the most part I thought it was a home run.
Yeah, I agree. I think and that's why I feel bad saying it was long, because there's nothing I look at and I go, oh, they should have taken that out. There's nothing that stands out as bad. It was just, there was a lot.
Yeah, but to your point, and I love AEW pay-per-views, I love how they space them out because it really makes me look forward to them every time. I will say this time, I wouldn't take anything out, but the placement of the matches was a little bit weird. Maybe I would have changed the order, but there was something that felt a little odd. This one compared to like a Full Gear and All Out. All Out was long. I was there live, and I don't even remember it being that long because it was just so hyped the way that these matches were booked. So maybe it was just the placement of the matches that made it feel like it dragged on. But I love this pay-per-view, and I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, like on paper, I would have thought like the Sting and Darby match could have been cut, but then when you actually watch it, it was really fun. You don't want to cut it.
Right. I want everything, and I want it to be in a short amount of time. And I don't want anything cut.
Punk and MJF could have had about 20 minutes cut from that match.
There was a couple of matches that went on that I would have cut just a couple of minutes from that would have probably just made things better. But like I said, I think it was more of a placement, not a length issue.
Yeah, so I mean, if you had to give it a grade, like 8, out of 10, what would you guys say?
I'm so bad at these because I always feel like, so if I compare it to other AEW shows, because they probably had about 10 pay-per-views so far. I mean, no, I guess they probably have like 20. I guess I don't know how many they have. Anyways, I would say it's. I'd probably put it at like a 7 because I feel like it's better than 7 of 10 of their pay-per-views.
Yeah, I give it a 7.
Best ever, but I think it was good.
Yeah,
I give it a 7.
I agree with Issa, and as compared to their other pay-per-views, it wasn't the best, but it was really, really good. They haven't had a bad pay-per-view yet.
No, they haven't. I mean, not in a long time.
Last year's Revolution, actually that was bad because it was such a shit ending with the explosion.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but the match was so good. Of course, they remember the ending, but the match between Mox and Omega was so good. It's a shame that whole thing went on, and I like to start. I've been thinking of my AEW pay-per-views like post-pandemic, so now I try to forget all about that, and I start from Double or Nothing at Darby's Place, full of fans, like one of the first pay-per-views that we saw with a full crowd. That's when I'm starting to count my AEW pay-per-views, and from that point on, I really don't think they've done anything bad.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think the best was their Revolution, whichever had the Hangman, Adam Page win the tag titles. I think that was my favorite one. But Brian Barry says at least this wasn't as long as WrestleMania 35. I can't remember how long that was.
It was very long.
And then Dean in the chat says having to lose the beer gimmick, Mox hurt him.
I think he means Hangman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
Because
never really had a beer gimmick, right?
No. Yeah, that was a big part of his character too, was the drinking.
Yeah, why did they drop that?
I wonder if it was because of Mox. I mean, maybe that's what Dean meant, is they dropped it because of Mox. I have no idea. Though.
Out of respect
but
to
I
Mox.
think the whole thing with Hangman like not drinking anymore, saying I don't need a drink, happened before the Mox thing. Right? I think so.
He was kind of moving on from that, I think, as he became the champion.
Yeah. I think it was a matter of like building his confidence. And at that point, he was feeling like he needed the drink in order to be able to like accomplish things. And that's why he dropped it. I don't think it was anything related to the Moxley
watered him
situation.
down.
You know what I really want to know, speaking of Moxley, is if Renee calls William Regal every time that Mox is on some kind of BS and William comes over to their house and just smacks him. For her.
I mean, I think you can use that for anything. I think that's why Tony Khan hired him. He's like, someone's like, I don't know if I like this story, and he's like, William, can you come over here and slap this person for me?
I could use a slap from William Regal every now and then.
I just want William Regal to randomly show up on segments and slap people and just walk away. That's it. That's how you book him.
Absolutely.
Like I said, after like the third time, he just raises his hand and everyone cowers. Even like Lance Archer's like, ugh, don't hit me.
Yes. Almost like, remember Brody Lee with the papers and everybody was like, no.
He's rah. Well, I think that does it for us. That covers the show. I thought it was a good one. Before we go, any final thoughts? Raj, anything going on with the site? Any news things people should be watching? Where can they follow you online?
We're still dealing with our Twitter nonsense, so keep following us on our backup account, Wrestling Inc. .com. Our 25th anniversary is coming up here in a couple months.
Are we gonna have a party stream?
We gotta do something.
Yeah. I wear a ball gown. Let's do it.
All right.
I am going to wear a bow tie. I'm going to go get a top hat.
All right. I got a few big names I've been talking with about coming on. So it's on. So yeah, it's. We're on the road to WrestleMania now. That's
to me.
What's that?
I'm hurt. You're talking about big names being on, but my name hasn't come up. What is that?
Maybe you are one of the big names. But yeah, man. Just keep checking out WrestlingInc.com. We had an exclusive interview with Wardlow the other day. Chavo Guerrero. I was talking about his AEW deal kind of fizzling out, and he's not very happy about it. So keep checking out WrestlingInc.com.
And then Brian Barry asks, since Tony Khan bought Ring of Honor, will we see a crossover pay-per-view?
I don't see it doing well. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Briscoes versus FTR? Yeah, it's good, but that's not going to do better than what tonight did, you know?
I don't know why you wouldn't, why it would be, would you replace, Double or Nothing and make it Death Before Dishonor? Would it change? I don't know. It'd be the same thing. It would just be...
Again, right. AEW is just so much more of a stronger name than ROH that...
Yeah.
We'll see, though. And Issa, where can the world follow you and all the stuff you're working on?
NYC Demon Diva on YouTube and all of my social media, so you guys can see all of the projects that I'm involved in, because I have a lot of things going on.
Awesome. You can find me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media, where all the things I'm working on. Hey, did you know, guys, I did commentary for the Santino Brothers show. It's on YouTube. You can check it out.
Hey.
Nice. But that does it for us. We're going to be back tomorrow for Monday Night Raw's after show, because we can't get enough of long shows and talking about them afterwards. So we'll see you guys tomorrow for that. And of course, there's NXT on Tuesday. There's Dynamite on Wednesday. There's the Thursday Pop Culture show. And then there's the Friday SmackDown Rampage doubleheader after show as well. We do it all, but we starts with tomorrow's show, the Raw after show. And of course, follow Wrestling Inc. Daily every day. That does it for us. And we'll see you guys next time.